Hello and welcome to Speed Channel's live coverage of the 2003 International Formula 3000 Series. This is the pre-race show for the second round of the F3000 Championship. It's from the Circuit de Catalonia, just outside of Barcelona, Spain. I'm Rick Rule alongside David Hobbs and Steve Matchett. And we are looking forward to this second race of the season, David.
Well, there you see the circuit laid out before you. An absolutely wonderful day here in northern Spain. And, of course, this is the circuit where everybody comes to do all their testing in the winter, Formula 1 and Formula 3000. And they had a test session here for the Formula 3000, as we see them rolling out now, not long ago, at the beginning of April. And so far, things are working out pretty much as they did in the test. Wertheim was quick in the test. And he's on the front row. It's not working out like it should do for Patrick Freisacker, who was fastest in the test and is buried in the middle of the field at the moment. So,
well, don't forget 2 weeks ago in San Marino, we saw a terrific start to the Formula 3000 Series. So we want to take a quick moment to recap the events of round one. David?
Well, Patrick Freisacker would start a career second best behind this man, championship favourite and pole sitter Bjorn Wertheim. At the start, Wertheim to the right of your picture got a good jump with Freisacker hanging on to that second place. His teammate there riding beside him as they had the run down to the Tambora chicane, which can be a pretty fraught spot, but luckily everybody got through. American Derek Hill started dead last due to problems in qualifying, while the other American, as we see here, Townsend Bell, started fifth.
Now, by lap 24, Wertheim and Freisacker had checked out from the rest of the field, but there was plenty of excitement going on behind these guys, especially from this man right here. Nicholas Chiesa was the cause of most of the excitement. Right there, he took a little shortcut through the grass. And then here in a three-way battle with Jeff Van Hoynduk and Nicholas Manassian, we called it Chiesa Chaos. He was hitting all kinds of things, although he kind of got punted there a little bit. And then more contact.
This is Townsend Bell here in the red car getting punted by Pantano there. Spun Bell around, and in fact it was going to put Pantano out. Much to their surprise, it bent the steering arm on the car and put it out of the race. And then Derek Hill in the second American entry here in the yellow car gives old Gary Paffett a poke up the old rear end, sending him off into the gravel and damaging his own wing.
And if it's more Chiesa Chaos you want, it's more Chiesa Chaos you get. Here he went wide, and then he was passed by Bell, who rebounded from his spin to finish ninth. All right, this is the best one of the day. Ooh!
And he didn't bend a thing. That's the bit I couldn't get over.
He hit Zolt Baumgartner, and amazingly, despite the kamikaze move, they were both able to continue on. No serious damage and no problems up front for Wertheim as he takes the very first race of the 2003 season. Freisacker a content second place. Ricardo Sperafico rounded out the podium, so there was the top three. And here are the results from that very first race, where Bjorn Wertheim came away with the victory and Freisacker was second.
Liuzzi third, Sperafico.
Toccacello, Schrader, Jean-Maria, Rob Nguyen rounded out the top eight. Remember, they pay points through eighth. Townsend Bell managed to get back up to ninth, which wasn't bad, but the result was he was out of the points. And Derek Hill, a very unfortunate 15th. They'd had some problems in qualifying, and he never quite recovered from that throughout the course of the weekend. And Robbie Kerr never even made it onto the grid.
No, that was a shame. There you see the points. This graphic is right. The last one was a bit wrong. We had Vincent Liuzzi there in third. Sperafico, in fact, came third. And there you see the points as they are after one round. Rob Nguyen ending up there with 1 point.
After the first round, even my math skills can figure out the point standings. And here's the team points, Steve.
Red Bull Junior team, leading out with 13 points. Arden International, good second place with 10. Coloni 3000 with 6. Jordan, the junior team, 4. And the Charouz team right back in 5th place with 3.
All right, so that's point standings after the first round. You know, Peter Windsor was able to catch up with some of the major players from Imola to get their take on the events of round one.
Imola is a very difficult place to pass, so I think we decided we'd hope for some attrition in the race, which didn't happen. But we wanted to finish the race and complete all the laps and treat it more like a test session.
We see the race. I was behind, yes, Liuzzi and Bell, but I was much quicker than them. I tried to overtake him, but it was difficult to overtake.
It was an interesting race. I was really happy just to run all day. It's really
interesting to learn about the tires in any series, you know, switching from tire manufacturers. And that's probably the biggest thing that I'll learn from the first weekend.
The race was very difficult because 31 laps are a lot for me, and I did a good race. I overtook Minassian in Puratella, so I'm happy. I did 2 points at the very important for the championship.
It was really good at Imola. We had a really good possibility to take some points there. I finished second there, Antonio finished fourth, so it's really good for the team championship. Now we look forward for Barcelona.
All right, back to live pictures in Spain from the Circuit de Catalonia as we're just about 23 minutes or so from the start of the Formula 3000 race. The big issue here is going to be passing. Very difficult track to pass on, and what'll this guy, Nicholas Chiesa, be doing out there?
Well, he had, as you said, a very eventful race in San Marino at Imola.
Well, he did, but of course we found out afterwards that there was a bit of a reason for it. His water bottle became deranged, took a life of its own, and every time it accelerated, the water was blowing into his face and down his mouth, and every time he braked, it blew forward onto the inside of his visor. So
and all he could do eventually was drink the entire bottle. Well, all those minor problems that create major crisis before the day is over. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're not too far away from the start of the Formula 3000 race in Spain. We're going to hear a lot about what's going on. Coming back in just a moment. Welcome back to the pre-race show for round 2 of the Formula 3000 season. There you have Tony Liuzzi getting out of his car. Now that we have put San Marino behind us, it's time to look forward to today's race. Peter Windsor tracked down a couple of the drivers to get their feelings about this track and their expectations for this weekend. Peter?
After a great opening round at Imola, the Formula 3000 circuit moved on to Barcelona, a circuit that most of the Formula 3000 teams know extremely well. What about Barcelona as a circuit from your point of view? What's your favorite corner here? Do you like this place even?
Well, it's very physically demanding because there are a lot of quick corners, long sweeping quick corners. But the circuit is okay, you know, it's not the best on the calendar because it's very difficult to overtake.
It's a technical circuit, and also you have quite 3 or 4 fast corner where you need to stay down with the throttle. And also you have a technical circuit. It's like a mix, you know, and it's quite interesting because you see everything in a driver.
Realistically, what can you achieve this weekend? What would you be comfortable with?
Realistically, I think I should be, at the end of the day, around the back of the top 10. And that would be amazing for me because all the guys here are really experienced, and that's what really pays off in the end of the day in 3000.
I think we've got a shot at being on pole here this weekend. We tested here really well, and didn't take too long to learn the circuit. So pace-wise, yeah, I'm pretty confident we should be in the top 5 most of the year, barring any disasters. So it's the racing that takes a bit of adjusting to. It's a different environment. No full course yellows. You know, getting comfortable with what the limits are in terms of blocking and moves and all of that. And I'd say it's quite a bit more flexible than what I'm used to. It's nice to be in the top 10. I mean, P8 we can realistically race for points, and if we run it clean, maybe even a podium, depending on you know what happens in front of us.
Yeah, doesn't want to have any more incidents like that one.
in front of him. No,
exactly.
You're going to miss the car in front of you for a start off. It's fairly essential.
This is really the new driver. That is Alessandro Piccolo, joining for the very first time, his very first race in Formula 3000. And a moment ago, you heard from Phil Giebler, another new driver this weekend, an American from California, originally from Oxnard, although he's been living in Europe for the last couple of years. Ran Spanish Formula 3 last year, but he's gotten the chance to make his appearance for the first time in Formula 3000 today.
Not a name that I am overly familiar with, I must admit.
Well, he's another California kid. That's what you need to know, because we've got Derek Hill, who's from California originally, Santa Monica. Townsend Beller from San Luis Obispo, and that guy from Oxnard. When we come back, Peter Windsor will give us a closer look at the suspension of these cars and find out how these cars survive the beating. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the pre-race show for the Formula 3000 Spanish Grand Prix, about to start, not too far away. You know, 2 weeks ago in San Marino, we saw several on-track incidents involving wheel-to-wheel contact. And our good friend Steve here was wondering how the suspension could possibly withstand all that pounding. So we sent Peter Windsor to get the scoop.
Lots of bumps and spills during that Formula 3000 race at Imola. And we saw Giorgio Pantano in the pits with a bent steering arm. However, generally speaking, they're pretty strong. This is year 2 for this latest Lola design. And there's nobody better to take us through the engineering of the car than Dave Luff, former McLaren mechanic. I think you were with James Hunt and Emerson when they won the World Championships in the 70s.
Right. Yep, that was right. The first one was with Emerson in 1974, and then James after that in 76. So I got a good feeling for those years.
Well, let's have a look down at the front suspension here. And what actually failed on the car at Imola when Pantano had that shunt?
They banged wheels with Townsend Bell, and this steering arm bent. It just got a bit of a U shape in it, but obviously it deranges. When any form of derangement of the suspension will create a bad handling, and as soon as that happened, Giorgio came in with massive toe in on the car, which makes it unpredictable on the steering.
Would you like to see that arm stronger, or do you think that was just, those sorts of accidents occur?
There's grounds to say it could be stronger, but I mean, at the end of the day, where do you stop strengthening up cars? They've got to be deformable in some position anyway.
And the wishbones here look pretty standard and easily attachable, dismountable, and you have various options, I think, don't you?
Yeah, there's lots of options on the car, many different suspension geometries. You can have anti-dive, anti-lift, there's lots of options. By now, I think most teams will have standardized on what they've got.
What about replacement parts on a car like this? I mean, how up to speed do you have to be in terms of lifing?
Well, there was a component that failed, not on our car, fortunately, today. You do have to life them. You can't just take it as forgotten and, it's going to be okay. So we crack detect the car, we crack detect all the steel components and Zyglo, the aluminium components, and we have to keep on top of it, especially when they start beating wheels with each other.
We're on the pole here. Hope you have a great race tomorrow. Well done.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, quite interesting to see that David Luff there taking us around the car and the suspension. What they're talking about, what Peter's talking about with lifing the components. On these sort of cars, all sort of Formula 1 cars and any high-performance machinery, they life the components to a number of kilometres, 2,000 kilometres or 500, whatever it is, depending
15.
how they think the life of it will last. And every lap that is covered, there'll be a guy sitting on a computer just tapping it down until basically the component dies, runs out of life, and it's taken out of service before there's any risk of it failing on the track. That's the theory of it, at least, anyway.
Good to see David Luff there, too. I remember him ever so well when he was a younger man then, and so was I. But so he's been in racing for a long time.
Yeah, but so have you. 12 minutes until the cars roll off. I'm sorry, I had to do that one, David. Formula 3000 in Spain. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, they're going to be getting pretty close to rolling off. Welcome back to the Formula 3000 Spanish Grand Prix, getting set to begin in about 10 minutes. And while we have a little break here, we're going to take a look at the Circuit de Catalunya on the Porsche track map with the man who knows the way around, David Hobbs.
Well, as Verdheim and Pantano said, it's a technical track, this, and what it's really got is all those long right-handers as you go down that very long straight, one of the longest straights in racing, to turn 1, Elf. Then that Renault turn goes on. Then the Repsol really goes on, so you put tremendous amount of heat and wear in left side tyres, particularly left front. Obviously a bit of a break in that left-hander Seat down to Wirth, another left-hander, but you got to get Wirth right because it's a fast approach downhill, and you want to get on it there and leg it up the hill. It's quite steep up to Kamsa. You run along the top there on the Nissan straightaway, and then down again, quite steeply downhill to La Cascia, and you got not much help there from the road surface, which falls away from you all the way. Then Right in the middle of La Casia, it turns uphill again. You go up to Bank Sabadell, and then those last two very fast right-handers, all of those put a lot of stress on the left side tires.
And remember, they had a test here for the F3000 guys back on April 10th and 11th. The first day, Patrick Friesacher was fastest. The second day, it was Ricardo Sperafico who was fastest. But the important thing is it means they've gotten mileage on this track, especially for guys like Townsend Bell, who is not getting a great chance to experience the tracks beforehand. This gave him a chance to experience this one.
Even though he did say that he thought he could have had a chance of being on the pole, obviously he's not. He was 6th fastest in that test.
Yeah, apparently he wasn't happy with his session. Part of the problem, and you always hear this from so many drivers, that he got balked a couple of times. He got guys in front of him who just didn't allow him to get a nice clean lap. But once again, that's the secret of qualifying when you're doing it something other than single cars, to make sure you get yourself a clean lap. And unfortunately, he is not in a great situation in terms of his starting today after the last race where he did so well.
The other slightly strange thing about this track is it's very hot today. The air temperature's up in the high 70s. The track temperature is in the mid 90s. So it's a very hot day, and the track temperature, the track conditions here change a lot. If there's any sort of a wind, it blows sand onto the track. But there's not much wind today, so it should be okay for them.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here as the cars continue to get ready. They make all their last-minute adjustments. There's Bjorn Verdheim getting ready. He's got a 2-race winning streak. We'll be back. Welcome back. We're still waiting for the start of the 2003 Formula 3000 race from Spain. So we want to take a second to look back at last year's Spanish Formula 3000 race. Sebastian Bourdais started from his 3rd straight pole in his mini races last year. Thomas Engel was second and pressured Bourdais into turn 1. We'll watch it coming up here, but Bourdais was able to hold the lead with Giorgio Pantano in the red car slotting in 3rd.
On the second lap of the race, Giorgio Pantano in the Coloni F3000 got past Thomas Enger's Arden International for 2nd position. That was around the outside. And by lap 7, he was all over Bourdais' Supernova in turn 1 for the lead, but he couldn't get by. Just look at this race. All through the race, these guys going. This is lap 12.
Yeah, in fact, on lap 23, it was more the same. Every turn, every lap, these two guys going at it. And finally, on lap 30, Pantano tries Bourdais in the infield section of the Circuit de Catalunya, but again, he cannot make the pass stick.
Just all over each other. Then finally, on the final lap of the race, still absolutely nose to tail here. Coming down this sweeper, fakes to the inside, then goes to the outside and hurries Bourdais after all that leading the entire race. Slides into the gravel, giving Pantano the win.
A very happy checkered flag, a lot of champagne, trophies for everybody up aboard. Pantano managing to get the victory. Obviously their big goal is to get to Formula One, so we want to take a look at some of the current Formula One drivers who made their way there through Formula 3000, starting with Heinz-Harald Frentzen back in 1990.
It's a pretty stellar group. Look at that. Rubens Barrichello, 1992. Olivier Panis, also 92 and 93. He was a champion in 93. Davy Coulthard, 92 and 94. Cristiano D'Amato, last year's World Series Champ Car champion in 96. And Juan Pablo Montoya in 97 and 98, and of course he was the champion in 98.
Montoya probably the most successful Formula 3000 champion who's coming to Formula One, because you look at a lot of these guys, and while they're doing Formula One, they haven't exactly set the world on fire.
Well, Justin Wilson, of course, he was a 2001 champ. He actually won the championship by the most points ever, something like 38 points. But unfortunately, of course, he's not got a stellar drive in Formula One, but he is in Formula One.
He is there, yeah, that's the thing.
And Alonso did it in 2000, and we've seen what he can do in Formula One already, as we can see with Mark Webber.
So it's definitely the path to Formula One, and those drivers today are hoping it can be their step. We're going to take one last break before the start of round 2 of the Formula 3000 Championship. When we come back, the cars will be set to roll off. Welcome back to Speed's live coverage, and I mean live coverage of the Spanish Formula 3000 race. You see 40 seconds until the cars drive off for their rollout lap. They clear the grid away. And unlike Formula One, these guys should get away fairly easily. And these cars are pretty bulletproof in terms of getting off the grid, although anything is possible.
Yeah, of course, they haven't got the sophisticated electronics of the richer F1 rivals.
And of course, they've got about half the horsepower, so they'll launch themselves down on this long straight to turn 1. And the problem with not having much horsepower is that there's a terrible temptation to try and make it all up in turn 1 because, you know, momentum is the name of the game in these cars. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and they've got to be very careful. I think they really need to protect the tyres. Remember, these guys have only 3 sets of tyres and only 1 set that they'll use for this race. They're Avon control tyres, and they really need to nurse them.
Now, Giorgio Pantano is...
Giorgio won here last year. He's hoping to repeat. In fact, let's take a look at the starting grid for today's Formula 3000 race from Spain. Giorgio Pantano, he won here last year. He wants to do it again. Beside him, Bjorn Verdheim, who won the first race. In fact, he's on a 2-race winning streak by virtue of winning the last race of last year.
On row 2, we have Van Hooijdonk in the Astra Mega car. Has no points yet, but alongside him is Riccardo Sperrifico, of course, has 3rd in points.
Row number 3, Jaroslav, or Jarek Janis as he's called, 19-year-old from Czechoslovakia, outqualified his slightly older teammate, Yannick Schroeder.
Row 4 is all Jordan GP Junior team. Toccocello just outqualifying his teammate and the first American in the field, Derek Hill.
Row number 5, Mr. Excitement himself, Nicholas Chiesa, hoping for a much calmer race. Antonio Liuzzi, who just wants to do well.
In 11th spot from the USA, Townsend Bell and the Arden teammate to Verdheim is on the front, and surprisingly far back, Patrick Freisacker, who was 2nd in our first race at Imola.
Row 7 is Tony Schmidt from Germany, and beside him an American flag, Phil Giebler, making his first appearance ever in Formula 3000.
15th spot is Rob Nguyen from Australia in the BCN team entry, and alongside him is Zolt Baumgartner.
And the very last row is row number 9, Alessandro Piccolo, a new driver for this race. Beside him, very interesting, Rafael Jean-Maria, who is Pantano's teammate. So these guys are bookends at opposite ends of the grid, which has to be very frustrating. We should mention there's one team that is missing this race. That is Brand Motorsport. You might remember the red and white cars from last race. As a result of basically money problems, they've decided they're pulling the plug. They had some issues with Nicholas Manassi, and depending upon who you believe, he either threatened a teammate or he just decided to drop out on his own. But the bottom line is Brand Motorsport is gone, and we have 18 cars here.
Now you see the cars all staying to the right of your picture or the left of the track. That's to keep off the dirty side of the track. So we're going to have a problem here already after all the practice and qualifying this morning from the Formula 1 cars. The marbles are starting to collect on the dirty side of the track, and Verdheim is staying on the left side. Look at them all staying on the left side as long as they possibly can, so they don't get any tire pickup before they before they go into their grid position. So that could be a bit of a detriment to the guys who are starting on the right side of the track, left side of our picture.
And I want to point out, if you see the car lining up in 3rd, that is Jeffrey Van Hooijdonk. He is in one of the Astra Mega cars. Last race they were white. This race they're yellow. I think it's just an effort to confuse us even more.
So if you hear us calling them something completely different, that is why, because there are now 4 yellow cars out there. 2 was bad enough.
We got 2 sets of red and 2 sets of yellow. And as long as they avoid more blues, I think we're going to be okay getting through the event.
Now they're all set.
Now remember, this is standing start with no launch control.
Here come the lights.
All on the rev limiters.
Oh, Pantano jumped the start
Pantano
very briefly.
Creep forward.
Oh, and look at it. Hooijdonk moving over onto Sperrifico.
But Sperrifico got by 5 wide there in the middle of the
how
pack.
long they can hold on to this.
This is what I meant now. They got the dirty side of the track. They've got to be careful. Verdheim sleeps into 2nd spot there.
Oh,
there's somebody going wide there on the right.
I think
that was Yannick Schroeder.
Now, funnily enough, just before the start of the race, we saw Yannick Schroeder put in a little bit more front wing on the car.
That looks like a big cloud of dust there.
And that was just Yannick Schroeder who caused that. And it looks like Toccocello in one of the Jordan cars is up to 4th. And is that Derek Hill right behind him? Or that's Hooijdonk? That's Hooijdonk being pressured by Toccocello. Got to get those yellow cars. And there we see all the debris that is left over
from some.
Yeah, I guess that's going to have to be from Schroeder's car.
And unfortunately, we don't have the camera angles to see exactly what happened, but obviously there were pieces flying.
There's quite a few people involved in that.
Well, at that stage, Schroeder's wing's still there, so I guess that debris is not going to be from.
We're hearing it may be one of the Red Bull cars. Maybe one of the Red Bull cars, either Liuzzi or Friesacher, who may be missing part of the front wing.
I can't believe that Pantano's not going to be pulled up for a penalty for a creep in the start. Remember, they haven't got launch control on these cars, and they've got triple carbon plate clutches in there. And I think the start, David, just keeping the thing at high revs just caused the clutch to drag a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
I don't think it was a deliberate attempt to jump the start. I think the transmission just snatched at the clutch. But I'll be very surprised if the stewards don't pull him in for that.
Yeah, we're hearing it is Friesacher who's missing part of his front wing.
Yeah, and of course Friesacher started off way back in the grid at 12th position on the grid, not where he would have thought he was going to after his run at Imola a couple of weeks ago. Verdheim giving Pantano a lot of pressure here.
So it's Pantano in the blue car. He's leading the race. The winner of Imola right behind him, Bjorn Verdheim. But we have to wonder, we got two cars who are off. That's Jean Maria in the other Durango car, and that is Phil Giebler, the other American who is off. That's the Denbla V car. Phil Giebler, who was running in Spanish Formula 3 last year, had a chance to run the first race of the season, but couldn't get everything together for proper licensing. As a result, he's racing here, and this is basically a one-off, and they're hoping it can last longer.
Yep. Well, Giebler trying to come on. Oh.
Giebler was looking the inside, but he just didn't really have the line.
He didn't, and of course Gian Maria didn't want to go too wide there because of those marbles we were talking about earlier on.
Yeah.
Well, one Durango car may be out, but the other one is at the front of the pack. Giorgio Pantano leading the way, although Giorgio Pantano remembers what happened last year when he hounded Sebastian Bourdais the entire way.
Yeah, and these guys were saying, you know, all the Formula One teams throughout the race weekend have been struggling with tyre degradation. That situation is not going to change because of the running 3000 cars. They're a controlled tyre. They will be on a hard compound, but they really have to take care of these tyres in the early stage. Bjorn Bourdheim is going to have a look down inside them. About 6 of the drivers have been very canny on their tyre choice, and what they've done is not run. Let's just have another look at the start. There you see Pantano creep forward.
Hoydnut moved all the way over.
Go over onto Ricardo Sperafica. Look at them there, 4 abreast. Derek Hill made a bad start in all this.
Chopping down. See all the dust on the right-hand side of the circuit, as you were saying.
Yeah.
All that marble's thrown up from the F1 qualifying practice session that we've just seen.
Jean Marie moved up 4 spots right there, unfortunately. Oh, there's where all the action
happened. Oh, everybody going off there at turn 1.
And it looks like Townsend Bell was hit in that as well.
That's Rob Newen, of course, who we just saw pulling back onto the track.
Meanwhile, up front, it's Pantano and Verdheim checking out from the rest of the pack. And you might have seen him just a moment ago. There was a local yellow down there at turn 1 as a result of that last incident. So there's not much passing. I'm not sure if the local yellow is still out as a result of that.
Clarify that situation on tyres. What some of the drivers have been doing, Verdheim amongst them, is saving that first set of tyres and not using a set of tyres, basically not running in the free practice session, using those 2 sets of tyres in qualifying. That gives them a brand new, almost stickered set just with a couple of laps to run the things in. New set of tyres that will last them through the race distance. So very canny use of the tyre regulations and optimizing the track time as well to keep them in good shape, because again, these left front tyres are going to take a hell of a pounding round here.
And they can't change tyres during this race. They can, but if they do so, if they make a pit stop, they're out of contention. So whatever tyres they start on, they have to go the entire distance.
And they were being very careful. When we saw the cars forming up on the grid in the reconnaissance laps, they were using an old set of tyres, then changing the tyres onto their new race set of tyres on the grid. We saw a lot of marbles being pucked up on the old tyres that were coming off.
Liuzzi, you notice there, is up to 5th, having qualified 10th. And unfortunately, we seem to have lost Derek Hill.
Derek just drifted back. I noticed at the very beginning when I was looking for those yellow cars, and he was quite a ways back.
Townsend Bell is running just about, well, he's a little bit, he's 9th now, he was qualified 11th.
All right, this is round 2 of the Formula 3000 season, the second race of the season. Right now, Giorgio Pantano has the lead, but right behind him is Bjorn Verdheim. This could get interesting.
Speed Channel's coverage of the Formula 3000 Championship is brought to you by Audi. In technology, performance, and design, our goal remains constant. Never follow.
Welcome back to Speed's live coverage of the Formula 3000 Championship. That is Giorgio Pantano in the blue car, followed by Bjorn Verdheim in the red and white car. And Verdheim is definitely making some noise. Every time they come up to the end of that front straight, he looks very much on the inside, but because of the waving yellow flag, he hasn't been able to make the pass, but he is hounding Pantano.
But of course, Verdheim may be biding his time. He may have been told by Christian Horner, the team leader, that don't push this to the end, the destructive end, because we think that Pantano may have to have a stop-and-go penalty. And Verdheim's just giving him a very tough time. And of course, talk about the boot being on the other foot. This is exactly what Pantano did last year to Sebastian Bourdais, pulling off the win on the last lap. So he may be thinking on the same, idea. If I can keep the pressure on Pantano long enough and hard enough, he's bound to make a mistake. It's very difficult for Pantano in a situation like this. I mean, his mirror is absolutely full of Verdheim. See how Verdheim drops back these last 2 real quick corners because the air is spoiled horribly, and he doesn't want to do that. But then he really gets a terrific draft down this straight and pulls right up to him as they go into turn 1.
And there's Sperafico, who is in third all by himself.
Sure, boy, just like Imola a couple of weeks ago, he was in third all by himself for the entire race.
Well, I tell you what, at this stage of the race, that's probably not such a bad place to be in at the moment, is it? Because you can control that tyre wear. These guys are really pushing each other, and I think really these guys have got to be careful. At the moment, Ricardo Sperafico sitting in third place could well capitalise out of this, especially if these 2 guys up front come together, take each other off, and the lead just becomes inherited.
You know that Pantano is driving as fast as he can to stay in front, and Verdheim now, he may be keeping it cool. He may have more left, but he's just hounding Pantano at the moment. So Pantano's tyres must be looking a bit sick. Yanis there in 5th spot. Townsend Bell in 7th. Rob Newen in 8th, despite that spin. Schmidt down there in 9th. Townsend Bell qualified in 11th spot. Derek Hill, our other US driver who qualified well in 8th, seems to have disappeared off the chart.
Pantano had a brief lock up there, and this is a great appearance for Pantano. He had the problem with the first race where he ran into the side of Bell, but this is not the team he was expecting to be with. It is not considered one of the teams that was considered a contender for the championship. He signed up with these guys at the last minute after a cart ride didn't come through.
Well, of course, currently last year's champion, Sebastian Bourdais, of course, is in kart this year, and Pantano was hoping to get in kart, as you just said, and something went wrong at the last minute. Look at the gap between Sperafico and the...
that's Tocacello in 4th.
Fourth place got Tocacello.
Tocacello got past Van Hooydonk.
Well, looking at last year's performance on these Avon Control tyres, usually got to around 2/3 race distance, which is really the transition point when the tyres started to give up.
That is Townsend Bell in 7th place. Behind him is Tony Schmidt, Rob Newton, pardon me, and then Tony Schmidt.
Tony Schmidt is in the car that should be white, but is now yellow. Is that right?
Can't tell the players without a scorecard around here.
Townsend Bell not going as quick as he should be, or not as quick as he thought he was going to be perhaps this year in Formula 3000. I suspect he's holding this little group up.
Oh, there's the pass.
So Townsend Bell drops back to 8th.
And it looks like Schmidt was about to take a look at him as well. Oh, he slides off into the gravel.
Lost a whole bunch of positions there. It looks like Tony Chiesa's hocking his tail right here. So, oh no. So, yeah, I think that's Tony Chiesa that Nicholas Chiesa indeed, who could be.
So Townsend Bell was saying that this was going to be very much a learning year, and he is already learning a lot.
Boy, I'll say.
Well, he said he didn't know any of these guys he was racing against in Imola, and yeah, we're going to have a replay of this. Let's see how Townsend Bell.
And here's where Townsend gets passed for 7th right off the bat. It's Nguyen going by.
Rob Nguyen has already had a spin and dropped well back, so he's really rushed up through the field. And then to make the whole thing go downhill quite fast, Bell goes off there.
Well, Bell went very wide at the corner before that, didn't he? And started to sort of drift off.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, these are the guys back up front, Giorgio Pantano and Bjorn Verdheim. Bjorn, who was making a lot of noises like he was going to get past at someplace on the track, has not been able to happen. We're still not sure as to whether there's the waving yellow flags here continuing at the first turn, and we're still not sure about whether Giorgio Pantano is going to be penalized.
No, they have left that a long while. I mean, the stewards have had a chance to look at that. It seemed pretty much a black and white case of did the car creep or not. But
it's one of those things that over 30 years of racing I've been irritated with officials. They let you race, and then they do it.
Yeah, you're right, David.
And we should say that Liuzzi and Van Hooijdonk have disappeared off our scoring screen. We've got to find out what's going on there. We'll be back. Welcome back to round 2 of the Formula 3000 Championship. This race from Spain. Haven't missed anything. The two guys up front continue to lead. Now, join us tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern Time for live coverage of the Formula 1 Spanish Grand Prix. As always, we're going to start things off with the Acura pre-race show. Again, that all starts tomorrow morning at 7:30 Eastern Time, live and only on Speed. For the West Coast folks, it is a pajama party.
Rob Nguyen there in 7th position.
Tony Schmidt in the yellow car right behind him in 8th. These were the guys that were battling with Townsend Bell, Zolt Baumgartner, and Alessandro Piccolo, who actually has a pretty good race going. Remember, this is his very first race with this team. There's Yannick Schroeder in the Super Fun car, who had to stop and get a new front wing, so we're not exactly sure what his standing is.
Zolt Baumgartner up there now with him in 9th position. He qualified way down in 16th. This is taking advantage of some of the more unfortunate brethren in the race.
Yeah, but Alessandro Piccolo has to be very excited. Once again, his very first start in this particular race. He's a teammate to Rob Nguyen. He replaces Valerio Scasolati.
Which is a relief.
But he started.
I couldn't pronounce his name anyway.
Started for the back row of the grid, and he's moved up significantly. Now he's in 10th.
Nicholas Chiesa, who I thought was at the back of that previous group, because in fact he's running in 6th spot. So Nicholas having a good run behind Yanis. Yeah.
Oh, big lockup.
Big lockup than Nguyen. Tony Schmidt right behind him. Zolt Baumgartner behind him.
Big lockup. It didn't really seem to slow him up very much, did it? No lost time.
Townsend Bell in 12th. Townsend Bell car's probably a little bit damaged after that off down at the vert corner.
And they are still waving the yellow flag. We could see that Phil Giebler's car is still stuck there. They have not moved it off yet. And how frustrating this has got to be for Bjorn Verdheim. I mean, he's sitting there driving around behind, but one place he thinks he could probably potentially make the pass, and he can't do it because the course workers, the officials, haven't gotten the car that's stalled off the track.
No, because the rest of the track really weaves around pretty much here. There's not...
No, this is great here. That's Nguyen's lock up there, right there.
Ooh, nasty flat spot now on that left front, so the old steering wheel's shaking his old teeth out. He hasn't got false teeth.
But he's straight. Rob Nguyen's straight back on the pace, and he didn't really seem to lose any time at all.
Didn't fade at all. He's only 22 years old, Rob Nguyen. Hasn't got a lot of experience. He's only had 13 starts in Formula 3000, which was last year he first came into Formula 3000. Previous to that, he had virtually no racing car experience at all.
And he didn't do karts. He's not a kart guy either. I mean, if you're one of those people who's just thinking about starting a racing career, Rob Nguyen should be your hero.
Terrific battle up front here, but as you can see the way the road moves, it's very difficult to pick a passing spot. And as this race unfolds, you can see the marbles lying off on the off line, so it's difficult to go around the outside of somebody, and Verdheim has to drop back here to leave himself some air to get around those very fast right-handers.
And of course, the thing is, remember, all these cars are absolute clones of each other, so no one's got a power advantage. No one's got an advantage in different compounds or constructions of tyres. Unless they've just tweaked the aerodynamics a little bit up or down to optimize the straight line speed, that's about all you can do to gain an advantage over your opposition. That, and of course, the skill in the cockpit.
Yeah, well, of course, that's the whole idea of it, to try and differentiate between the drivers. As you say, there's not much you're allowed to do to the cars. Of course, all the cars are identical.
That's one of the Red Bull cars. It's Liuzzi who's letting him go by. Liuzzi, who we talked about, has suddenly dropped off of the top 12 list. And that's Yannick Schroeder sliding.
Again. Who's in P11. Schroeder, remember, is involved in that Schmoldl first lap incident down at turn 1. We think he went into the pits to have a new wing put on, although we never saw that actually happen in the pits. But he's not having a fun day.
Well, Bjorn Verdheim not having a fun day. He keeps looking at the exhaust pipes. Giorgio Pantano wondering when he's going to get to make his move. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Speed's live coverage of the Formula 3000 race from Spain. This is the second race of the season. The first race saw Bjorn Verdheim just run away with it and win easily, where this race, Bjorn Verdheim is in second, anxiously nibbling at the heels of the guy in the lead, Giorgio Pantano.
And this is a terrific battle. Rob Newen just leading Tony Schmidt, and right in front of them now is Nicolas Chiesa, who was a fair way in front of him, but now is only just, there he is. Just so Rob Newen's got his sights set now on Nicolas Chiesa, so he needs to be a bit careful how he tries to get by old Nicky. In the Den Blanc Aviscar.
The car that's following Nguyen is one of the Astromega cars. Once again, they're now yellow, and that's the team that Nguyen drove for last year. So, wants to finish ahead of them at the very least. Meanwhile, we understand they finally have a crane out. They're getting ready to get rid of Phil Giebler's car that is blocking or causing a problem at that very first turn, which is why the yellows have been out. Pantano locks up just a little bit. And I wonder, is Verdheim able to make the challenge? Has his tires gone away so he can't make the challenge? Or has he just been waiting for that car to be moved so he can finally do something?
Well, one of the problems is, you know, that as you come around the last two right-handers onto the straight, even though you've got a whole kilometre of straight in front of you, he has to lay back a little bit. Otherwise, he's in, as Bobby Unser would say, dirty air. And then, of course, he's got to pull all that ground back up down the straight, which he can do in the draft. But even so, it's... whoa, whoa, whoa. Who's that? Is that... Oh, Piccolo, I think that might have been.
Well, a little bit too wide there.
Just a little bit.
Playing a tune on the gravel.
You want to use that grass creep, but not that much.
That wasn't the grass creep, mate. That was the gravel behind the creep. Look at this now. Rob Newen right up on Nicolas Chiesa now. Nicolas Chiesa, the Den Blanc of Iscar. That's not actually how you're supposed to say it, but I'm not going to say it how it's supposed to say it. Here he goes, down the outside.
Inside, big look from Chiesa.
Now remember, this is a momentum situation with these guys. They lose a little momentum and they're in trouble. Nguyen battling it out.
Yeah, Chiesa hanging right in there. Now he's got between him and Schmidt. Schmidt won't be happy about that. He's trying to get by.
Careful.
Oh, down the inside. Good move there by Schmidt.
Chiesa, having had all his bumping incidents in the last race, saw discretion as the better part of valor, and now he's under pressure from Zolt Baumgartner right behind him, who's drafting down the front straight, moves to the inside.
Zolt Baumgartner from Hungary.
This is for P8 right here.
So good move
down
there
into
by
turn 1, yeah.
Baumgartner.
No yellow flags there anymore.
Phil Giebler's car now been moved.
Took a long while to get Giebler's car out of the way. I can't understand that.
It's a ridiculous amount of time.
Ridiculous.
I think we've got to assume that Pantano now is not. Well, let's have another look at this.
Nguyen going down the inside of Nicolas Chiesa. Chiesa fighting hard, but fighting clean. Then he comes back in front of Schmidt, trying to get back alongside Nguyen, but just can't quite manage it. Nguyen stretching away a little bit.
Like you said there, Rick, he just lost the momentum. Again, when he locked up the brakes and just really couldn't claw it back.
Now these guys, of course, are all using Avon tyres. And, of course, there is a potential in a race like this, but as you can see, it's very hot and sunny in Spain.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Big lock up there from Nguyen. Boy, oh boy, that left front must be just like a threatening bit.
Oh, there it goes.
Look at those rears too, leaving black marks.
So again, you know, we're seeing those tyres. I think that's two big lockups from Nguyen, David, like you say. Those tyres are going to be particularly wrecked, and you need that left front to work because of all that weight transfer that shifts across the axle line. I'm going to give these about another 3 or 4 laps. Once we're down to about lap 12, I think these tyres are going to be shot.
What's a threepenny bit, you all say? Threepenny bit is an old English coin worth 3 pence, and it had, what, how many sides? 8 or 10? It was a funny-looking coin.
I can remember seeing those in history books, David, but I never spent any in the tuck shop.
Rob Nguyen, remember, points go all the way back to 8, just like Formula 1. So points right now go back to Zolt Baumgartner, which is why it's so significant that Chiesa got bumped back so far, because he got bumped literally right out of the points.
He did indeed.
Now, this is the battle for the lead. We had seen Bjorn Verdheim so many times coming right up on the back of Giorgio Pantano at the end of that front straightaway, but now that there's no yellow flag, he doesn't seem to be able to come up quite as close.
That third car in the picture there is Liuzzi, of course, who's a lap down, so he's not racing with these guys, but having lapped him, he's hanging on pretty well, actually. He's not losing an awful lot of time to these two leaders who are quicker than anybody else out there. So Liuzzi's hanging on, but of course it's all too late. He's down a lap, so he's out of the points as well. And of course he's currently lying 4th in the points. So that's a big disappointment to him.
And these guys are getting further apart. They're not getting closer either. Bjorn Verdheim dropping back a little bit. Now I guess Pantano's now been in the clear. I can't see him being called in now for a penalty for that potential jump start. And I would have thought that would have fired up Bjorn Verdheim to go for the pass, but maybe they've got problems.
15 laps left. 32 lap race, just under 100 miles.
Well, especially if Verdheim looks at what happened last year when Pantano just hounded Sebastian Bourdais the entire way until he finally made a mistake. You know that's your only hope in one of these things.
Yeah.
Do the hounding, trying to make the guy make a mistake, but you've got to get close enough to be able to hound him. But Giorgio Pantano in the Durango continues to lead. Bjorn Verdheim right behind him. That's Phil Giebler's car cruising off. Welcome back, Rick DeBrule, David Hobbs, and Steve Matchett. It's the Spanish round of the Formula 3000 Championship, and this is the battle in the back of the pack between Rob Nguyen, Tony Schmidt, and Zolt Baumgartner for 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yeah, I mean, they're not that far back. Somewhere in front of them is Yaroslav Yanis. Not quite sure where Yanis Yaroslav, we're not quite sure how far in front he is. But these guys are having a titanic battle.
And you could see Nguyen just sliding just a little bit there under pressure from the yellow car of Tony Schmidt. Once again, Tony Schmidt was in the white car last week. Now he's in the yellow car.
Now Townsend Bell was in this group earlier on, battling with these group, and he is now, having slid off the road, he's slid right back to 12th position and is way back. So not a good day for the Americanos. Phil Giebler out with that crash. We think that Derek Hill either had a crash or some mechanical failure. He got out very early on after making a lousy start. And Townsend Bell, who didn't qualify as well as we'd hoped he would, qualified 11th. He's now dropped out of the scoring frame altogether. Ooh, look at this, Schmidt right behind Nguyen going down that long front straight in a great draft. Big draft here. Trying to go around the outside. Brave move. Is he going to pull it off because Nguyen's got the inside line? Can't, because he gets into all those marbles, loses momentum, which nearly drops him back into the clutches of Zolt Baumgartner. Now he's going to have to go around the outside of this Renault turn. Long right-hander here. Puts a lot of stress and strain on those outside tires. Baumgartner right up alongside him now.
And
Zolt.
Is he got it?
He's got him on the inside. He's got it.
Is.
He does it. Zolt Baumgartner takes away the position. That is for 7th.
Wow, good drive by Zolt Baumgartner there. He's also only 22 years. The average age of this field is only 23 years old, you know.
And you know the two oldest guys? Two of the Americans. Derek Hill and Townsend Bell. Both 28 years old. Derek Hill just slightly older.
Nguyen got it back again. Now I thought down in turn 1 he'd lost his concentration, and you could see him looking in his mirrors left and right to try and check positions. Very vulnerable, but he seems to have regained his composure again now.
And one thing that we haven't seen, but we saw it on timing and scoring, which is that Enrico Toccacello has gotten past Ricardo Sperafico for 3rd. That was a battle elsewhere on the track. While we've been watching this, that apparently went on. So Enrico Toccacello has moved up a spot.
Toccacello, of course, the Jordan Junior team, teammate to Derek Hill. And of course, that team is run by David Sears. A long-time, very successful team, and Toccacello, in fact, had a win last year at Hungary. But David Sears has had many wins over the years with his team.
6th, 7th, and 8th right there. Rob Nguyen still ahead. But Zolt Baumgartner trying to figure out if he can cut a way into that.
I'm going to quick look in the mirror there to see where Schmidt is.
And back up front, boy, Björn Verdheim just doesn't seem to be able to cut into the lead. And how frustrating. You know, when Verdheim was running well, there was that yellow flag at the end of the front straightaway, so he wasn't able to make a pass. And now that the yellow flag is gone, he's just not close enough to make it work.
I wonder whether or not Verdheim was struggling a little bit with cockpit temperatures, or engine gearbox temperatures, I should say, running so close to Pantano and dropped back a little bit to try and cool the car. But I think, again, with these cars being so closely matched, very difficult to claw that speed back again once you open the gap up.
Well, the other thing, too, is don't forget, Verdheim is leading the championship in the Arden car, the red car that we're looking at now. Pantano scored no points in Imola, and the Arden team and Verdheim will increase their lead significantly. Even if he just stays in second spot, he'll get 8 points for that. So he may be just playing it safe, because everybody else right behind them are very low in the scoring.
Even Frisacher, who finished second, is not going to get any points this race. So Liuzzi is probably not going to get any points this race, which means that just by finishing second,
Sperafico is the only guy in there who's running fourth. So he'll have had a third and a fourth, and the Arden car will have had a first, a second. Of course, the Arden car's out of Banbury in England, close to us. Christian Horner went to school with my godson, in fact.
Really?
My godson, who lives out now in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Well, that's a long way.
And went to school with Christian. Christian, of course, drove himself for a little bit and was pretty good, but like Roger Penske, I guess he thought, I think I'll be better off here owning rather than driving.
It's a tough business, though, especially trying to survive in the world of something like Formula 3000. Not a lot of sponsorship out there, especially in tight economies. Tough to keep the teams going, but they're out there now. We'll be back with more from Spain. Welcome back to Spain. Zolt Baumgartner in that red car right there, trying to take a look to the inside of Rob Nguyen. That is the battle once again for 6th, 7th, and 8th in this Formula 3000 race. Now, don't forget, tune into Speed tonight at 7 o'clock for Speed News. Rick Benjamin, Ralph Shaheen will get you up to speed with all the latest motorsport news and race results. Once again, that's tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, only here on Speed.
Nguyen really starting to slide around now. I think his tires have gone off. They look okay. The sun's shining on there. You can't see any visible signs of any blisters appearing, but boy, he's had a couple of lurid slides in the last lap or two, and Zolt Baumgartner's all over him. Now Baumgartner's right up his chuff as they go down the straight there.
His what? Looks to the outside.
But Zolt's tires, look at that front tire.
He ain't going to pull it off.
That's a very tough move. Now remember, he's under attack.
Tony Schmidt's going to come along now.
There's a lot of dust there. Someone had an off in front of the cars. Yeah, we didn't see that, but
somebody had another red car in front of him now.
That could be Ricardo Sperafico in 5th. Ricardo Sperafico going back.
Yeah, having big lockups now.
I think that's Sperafico in the front of that pack.
Yeah,
Sperafico.
And, you know, that's just look at that.
And he's letting him go by.
And you can see that black line around the inside of the right front tire of Zolt Baumgartner, of Rob Nguyen. And we get another head-on shot, which could easily be a line of blisters.
And once again, everybody, as a result of going past Ricardo Sperafico, have now moved up. That was the battle for 6th, 7th, and 8th. Now it's 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Oh, well,
and obviously Sperafico has some big problem.
Now Verdheim is in really good shape now, because he's going to end up, if he comes second, he'd end up with 18 points. Sperafico would have had 11, but now he won't. He'll end up with just what he had going into the race, which was 6. So Verdheim certainly may be, you know, just playing a waiting game for Pantano to make a mistake, and if he doesn't get by him, he doesn't get by him.
Once again, now the battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th as a result of Ricardo Sperafico moving back. And remember, there's only one Sperafico this year. We don't have the twins. We don't have the cousins.
Zolt Baumgartner. See that right front tire of his, which is the one that is least loaded. It's definitely looks like a line of blisters around it to me. Nguyen's tire doesn't look too bad. And Schmidt's tires look okay, but there's a definite...
Now, let's have a replay of this.
all trying to get by
That's Ricardo Sperfico in the front.
locking up big time.
And this is where Zolt needed to take advantage, and he just couldn't make it happen. Ricardo Sperfico moving over and letting the pack go by.
Ricardo Sperfico and Zolt both driving the Coloni cars. Obviously, he wasn't going to take his teammate out.
You know, if Ricardo Sperfico continues to fall back, the new kid, Alessandro Piccolo, will score a point. He'll move into 8th, because right now he's in 9th. His very first race, end up with a point, thanks to the new scoring system.
Yeah, you can see some now, these closing stages. David, you're right, you can see those black lines starting to form around the tyres. They're really starting to go off now, aren't they?
Predominantly on the unloaded tyre.
Yeah.
It's probably because they're pretty stiff and it drags that inside tyre across the road.
Remember, these are spec tires, all Avon tires. They all run the same type of tires. They're only allowed 3 of them per weekend. And some of the drivers choosing not to even run the first 30-minute session so they could save their 3 sets of tires. And that's the battle up front. Giorgio Pantano, the blue Durango car, just ahead of Bjorn Verdheim.
And that's certainly sound policy, Rick, as well. I mean, you can see the performance of the cars now and the tyres dropping off. If they'd have used tyres with probably 10 or so laps on them, they would be doomed.
Although there was some question as to whether it was better to start with Ricardo Sperfico in the pits. Ricardo is done for the day. And that means Piccolo, the new kid,
Has got a point.
has got himself a point. Not bad. He's competed in Italian Formula Renault, Italian Formula 3 with a little bit of success. Now, if he can hang on for the rest of this race, he'll have himself a point.
The other problem these cars have got as far as tyre conservation goes, of course, they do not run any form of traction control. So coming out of those slow corners, when you want to put the power down, you get a lot of lateral load going through the tyres anyway, and acceleration.
And look at the gap
460
between...
brake horsepower.
Yeah, Pantano now pulling away, so Verdheim has either got a problem or has absolutely settled for second now that Sperfico's out of the race.
That's a big gap to just start settling for something, and there's still too many laps to go.
Not many laps to go, but you know he doesn't want to. Ooh, but it is a huge gap.
Huge gap.
Verdheim must have a problem.
The question is, how much further back is Enrique Tuccicello? There's the battle once again for 5th, 6th.
This is not the battle we want to see, is it?
Yeah, they paid extra. Give them a little coverage.
So Baumgartner trying to getting in the draft, go around the outside of turn 1, but of course you can't pull it off because once you get too wide there, you get into all those marbles.
He's tried it twice and hasn't been able to make it work either time. So Rob Nguyen still in 5th with Zolt Baumgartner taking those looks but not getting by. Meanwhile, up front, it's Giorgio Pantano leading the way in Spain. Welcome back to Speed's live coverage of the Formula 3000 series from Spain, and we will be here until the checkered flag. No more commercials to interrupt. And sad news for all you Alessandro Piccolo fans. He has been passed by Yannick Schroeder, so he is now just outside of the points. A collective sigh of pain goes through the Piccolo fan club.
Well, just a little locket from Nguyen there, but Zolt's tyres, both the fronts now have got that distinctive black matte line going around the middle of the tyres, and he's just not been able to push on those tyres any longer.
Under a lot of pressure from Schmidt. Just a few laps left. 4 coming up left. Zolt's been doing a good drafting job on Nguyen down here, but he keeps trying to go around the outside of turn 1, which is a difficult one to pull off. Seems to drop back a little bit this lap, though.
Yeah, I think he's getting too close. He's losing the front wing. Downforce effect on the car and causing the front of the car to slide around, and that's taken the out of those tyres. And Zolt Baumgartner's car. He just can't get up close, David, I don't think, any longer.
Giorgio Pantano, nearly 4 seconds ahead of now of Verdheim.
There you see the gap.
We wondered what had happened to Verdheim because he dropped off the picture a couple of laps ago, but still hanging in there.
But the important thing is Enrique Tocacello, who's in third place, is much further back. So as a result, is not falling into the clutches of third place. So the blue car, Giorgio Pantano, that's the Durango car, then Bjorn Verdheim. But as David keeps mentioning, Bjorn has to play it smart. He comes away with 18 points, and this will be a huge lead. And it really plays into when the last race at Imola, when Pantano punted Townsend Bell, and as a result put himself out of the race because he was going for 5th place at that point. And having 3 or 4 points, depending upon how he would have finished, could be huge in the championship.
Tocacello just coming into the picture there, not that far behind.
You think having a run at Verdheim?
I don't think so. I think he's far enough behind not to be able to do that. Verdheim's tyres look okay. There's Tocacello. No, I'm sorry, that's Verdheim. Does his engine sound rough, or is that rev limiter?
Well, they have got a limit on, and it's pretty low. The rev limit on these Zytec V8 engines is set at 9,000, 460 brake engine. But you're right. I think we hear a lot of these rev limiters because they're sort of artificially low. I mean, 9,000 RPM for a 3-litre V8 racing engine is pretty low.
Bjorn Verdheim in second, not able to take away anything for a long time. He was running right behind the leader, Giorgio Pantano. This guy, Pantano, who finished second officially in the championship last year. There you see Derek Hill is in 11th and Townsend Bell is in 12th. Still running on the track. Piccolo back in 9th. Chiesa fell back to 10th. Anyway, talking about Giorgio Pantano, he finished second officially in the championship last year, remembering that Thomas Enga had one of his finishes disqualified, thrown out. As a result, Pantano was moved up, but he had 3 first-place finishes last year, 3 victories. And I think you have to be very impressed with this team because this was not, we're not expecting to do that well. Whoa, more lockup action.
Rob Newen locking up badly there.
That's at least 3, probably 4 big lockups we've seen from Nguyen's tyres.
That whole left front must be pretty sick-looking puppy by now, I tell you.
Not going to be for sale afterwards.
No way. No way, Hose. Oh, Zolt now really pressuring him as he goes through these last 2 very fast corners, so he's nice and close now for a big draft. And Nguyen actually pulling away a little bit there. He's tucked under the wing, but not quite close enough. He tries for that outside deal again. That ain't going to work.
No, that ain't going to work down there, is it?
No.
You see the front of Baumgartner's car there. You see just washing away left and right as it goes through turns 3 and 4.
The Repsol turn, another one that takes a heavy. Do you see all the marbles lying off to the outside of the track there now? It's really a tyre shredder, these long corners. Oh, Zolt trying to go down the inside, enough to panic. Nguyen is locking up again.
Well, that's his hope. He's got to keep the pressure. He really needs a mistake from Nguyen.
You know, Nguyen hasn't really made too many. He's locked up a few times, but for the most part, he's running a fairly clean race. And more importantly, he's managed to move over and block the moves from Zolt Baumgartner. He hasn't given Zolt an inside line at any point. And then you have to remember, you know, at the very least, you're in the points. You make a stupid move, and you could easily be out of the points.
Yeah, you'll be out of the points.
Rob Nguyen, in fact, at the moment, has got 1 point, so this a 5th position here would be great for him.
You've also got to remember, you've got all those F1 team managers watching this, and not only will you be out of the points, you'll be out of favour if you do something stupid.
Nguyen moving over there just to sort of block the inside a little bit.
Down to just 1 lap to go. Once again, this is the battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th. Oh. Meanwhile, up front, take 1.
Oh, no! He's going to lose them both!
Oh, the last lap lap. He tries to make a move.
I'd say Tony Schmidt now too. Look at him go around you. He's going to go around the outside. No, he's not.
He's trying to make a move. We're not going to see it. Now,
what a great idea. He sold him the dummy. Ewan moved over and zap across the inside. Great idea. But you could see he lost the tail end, started to go around there because on all those marbles going into the corner. Lost a horrible amount of momentum, and Tony Schmidt went by him.
Tony Schmidt was just in a watching brief, was it, for all those laps, watching for that mistake or potential mistake to capitalise on it himself.
Meanwhile, up front, Giorgio Pantano getting ready to take the checkered flag. 3 victories last year. He didn't finish the first race at Imola this year, and he is about to get a victory here at Spain. He comes across, get the checkered flag, and that's only the 3rd victory ever for the Durango team. 77 starts, they've had 2 victories.
Newen still just holding off Schmidt with another huge lockup. Zolt Baumgartner giving up a little bit behind him now, but these 2 are coming up to some lap traffic as well, just to complicate the issue, aren't they? Yeah, they are. Here they come, and right in front of them.
Hold on.
Oh, boy, oh, boy. Don't make a mistake now. This.
Just not enough there to make it happen. Maybe another lap or 2 he could have pulled it off.
Good stuff.
Now, Rob Nguyen had to hold on to get that 5th spot, having held off Zolt Baumgartner for so long and managed to avoid him going to that first turn. But Pantano was the victor, right ahead of Bjorn Verdheim. We'll be back. Welcome back to Speed's coverage of the second round of the Formula 3000 Championship from Spain, where Giorgio Pantano has come away with the victory. 2nd time in a row for him here.
2nd time in a row for him here, and his 5th victory overall. Bjorn Verdheim 2nd for Arden International. Toccacello hanging in there for 3rd spot. Lowe's about 20 seconds back, and then Yaroslav Yanis, Rob Nguyen, who had that tremendous battle all the time. And Tony Schmidt there just behind him. Poor old Zolt getting aced out with just a couple of laps to go.
Last 2 finishers were Derek Hill and Townsend Bell, the 2 Americans, and we should mention the other American who didn't finish, and that is Phil Giebler. Unfortunately, he went out fairly early on in the race.
Patrick Freisacker there, no doubt bitterly disappointed, as will be Ricardo Sperafico, because they were well up in the points before, but no longer are they. Gianmaria had a few points too going into this race, and he was qualified poorly and was out. You can't qualify poorly in Formula 3000 because the field is so jolly competitive that if you're at the back at the start, you're likely to get caught up in some sort of first lap schmozzle.
Well, that's going to do it for the second round of Formula 3000. We're going to be back again in 2 weeks from Austria. In fact, we're going to have live coverage of the 3rd round of the International Formula 3000 Championship from the A1 ring in Spielberg, Austria. That's on Saturday, May 17th at 9:30 in the morning, immediately following Formula 1 qualifying, as always. So for David Hobbs, Steve Matchett, and Peter Winter, I'm Rick DeBrule. We'll see you tomorrow for the Formula 1 Spanish Grand Prix live on Speed.